welcome to day 5, final night of the BUcity collab week of events. We hope you have enjoyed this week. If you haven't had a chance, please fill out the survey that we will provide again at the end of this. We really appreciate your feedback so we can know what you liked, what you didn't like, what we can maybe try differently next time. So for this evening, we have with us David Kraiker from the Census Bureau, and he is going to be talking about census data. So we would like to welcome him. He is a data dissemination specialist in the data dissemination and training branch of the US Census Bureau. He works out of the New York City office. He works in data dissemination, teaching and instructing clients in how to download and use census data. Previously, he worked as a geographer for the Census Bureau, as well as a cartographer at Hammond Maps in GeoNex. He attended Clark University and Rutgers in Newark, excuse me. Thank you, David. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. You can hear me okay? You can see me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, let's do that first. Okay. And okay. I'll go ahead leave my, I don't know, if you want to turn my video off for a while I go through this, it's fine. Up to you. And let me do this. I will do that. Okay, so once again, my name is David. I work at the Census Bureau. Like I said, that my background is in actually geography and actually, believe it or not, French. So I studied French at Clark University and geography there. And so a little bit, and you probably thinking, how did he get to this point? But actually, this is very geography based. But also they needed somebody who could do training. And so when I'm doing hands-on training, I am using language teaching methodology to teach the class. And so that is where the two things sort of meet together. So anyway, today what we're going to do is look at how I'm going to give you an overview of what Census Bureau does and a little bit of an intro to what you need to know before we go looking for census data. So let me just go through this really quickly. Census Bureau is a contractor. So we do actually contract to other federal agencies and even to local governments. So if you see up here, the list on the left, second line, we actually contract to New York City and do some work for them. So our people just know how to go out there and get interviews and get information from people and that sort of thing. All these things that we do they get turned over to these agencies and they aggregate the data the way they need to do it and they release it or analyze the way they need to do it. The only exception really is on the last line here, and that says American Community Survey. And that is basically what we are going to be looking at today. That is our largest survey that we do, with the exception of this, the decennial census. And that's what you've probably just been through. We do this every 10 years, the decennial census. It's a snapshot in time. It is pegged to the date April 1st. It is the official count of the population. We ask only 10 questions or maybe even less than 10 questions. And we try to account for every household, meaning that we send the questionnaire out to those people. We hope to get a good response rate. Let's say it's 75% response rate and the remaining 25% response rate, we have to visit those households and try to get an interview. It's the only census that we count homeless people, as a matter of fact. And also, this is the first time that it was online. So you can just, could do the census on the phone if you needed to. All the other censuses we do are sort of pegged to this or based on this. And so what I mean is we do two other censuses. We do something called population estimates every summer. We release data about counties and large towns and cities, and it's a mathematical equation. and it is based off the 10-year census. So we do that every summer. We also do the American Community Survey, and so that is another type of census that we do. This decennial census, we release the data down to a block level, by the way, and that will happen probably after March 2021. You can get really granular data, but it will be, kind of hard numbers, counting, number of people who are female, male, that sort of thing. Just keep that in mind. This census is very intensely publicized. These are just fortunes that were in cookies, I think, Chinese cookies. And then we also hire a lot of temporary workers, and they know what to do about their specialty, I should say. But once the census is over, those people are released, and then they go on to other jobs. It's a good experience, but it is temporary. As opposed to this, the American Community Survey, which happens all the time, we have people who work for us who are there permanently, and they know what neighborhoods are like. They know the languages of the neighborhoods. That we hire people who speak those languages, and they know how to get people to answer questions. And so American Community Survey is a moving picture. We do it every month of every year. We did not stop for the decennial census. It went in tandem with that census as well. We survey about 1% of the population a year. It is built in a geographic database of addresses, and it's in an impartial address selection. So it is an algorithm that goes through and selects addresses, and then we're giving that, and it says, go do this interview, okay? And so we have to do most of those interviews, but not all the interviews. Also, people may reply online, or they may reply on a paper form. And if they don't do one of those, the following month, we will send somebody to their home to try to interview them. And so we have more time with this survey than we did with that decennial census. There are 72 questions. 48 questions are about the people in the household. Those are deep characteristics. And then the other 24 questions are about the housing unit itself, what type of heat, how many rooms are in the house, what is the mortgage, that sort of thing. If people are not living in the house, we will still try to go to the tax department and figure out the information about that housing unit. So it's something to keep in mind. Tables, we have different types of data, tables, B, C, S, and DP tables, and we have others as well. A lot of cross tabulating. You might answer 2 questions, but we figure out 3 or 4 things from those 2 questions. And you can get the data down to a tract level. And a tract level is something like a neighborhood level. The data is aggregated to that. And so you never can pinpoint any one person or any one household. You just know that in a certain area, the income is this, or a certain number of people speak this language, or that sort of thing. So that you should keep in mind. These are some of the main topics that we have. I always like to point out this DP table, which I will show you today, data profile. It's kind of like the Walmart of tables, has a lot of information in it. And these are some of the topics that are in those tables. Notice there's no DPO1. I don't know why. There's just no DPO1. It doesn't exist. There's DPO 2, 3, 4, and a DPO 5, which I don't have up here. So the questions of something like this, we ask questions. The question, are you Hispanic or Latino? And you can write it in. You don't have to check a box if you're something else, or consider yourself something different that we don't have. You write it in, and we have sort of a software that can read legible handwriting or print. And then we have the race category, and you select that as well. And I always like to point out to people, we do not consider Hispanic to be a race. It is separate from the race, which is down here. So you could conceivably have somebody who is maybe Hispanic Cuban, but they're also Chinese, okay? So that does happen. And this is just another view of the form, what it looks like. People, once again, can write in whatever they want to write in. I do like to point out that some questions have A, B, and C. So there's actually a lot of questioning going on there. And so we try to get people to answer the questions, but they don't always answer all the questions on a form. Okay, something to keep in mind. And so we need to talk about data thresholds, and data thresholds are a way that we release the data. Okay, so for any area that has more than 65,000 people in it, we have data that's called 1-year data. It is released every year in September, and it is data from the previous year. Okay, so that data was collected over the previous year. We also have data that's called 5-year data, and that's for any areas under 65,000 people. And I sort of show you what some of those areas could be over here. That data is released every December, and it is for the previous year and the previous 4 years. So the previous 5 years, we'll say. And the data was collected over 5 years, and then it is the average over those 5 years, and then we release it in December. And we release this data every year in December. So the data is there for you to take, to look at, but you need to be aware that if you have a concern that there are overlapping years in data, you may not want to take this 5-year data every year. You might want to split it up. You could take it every 5 years. You might want to split it up every 2 or 3 years, just so you don't have the same data that's being, averaged all the time. So notice the 4,000 mark down here. That means that this data is good and reliable down to a population of about 4,000 people. And under 4,000 people, the data is still there, but you have margins of error that get a little bit larger and a little bit larger, or you have dropout because not everybody answers every question on the form. And so if we do not have enough people answering a question on the form under a population of about 4,000 people, you may find that there's no data for certain questions. So that's something to keep in mind. It's just sort of the nature of the beast, we'll say. And a little geography lesson here. So over here on the right, I like to point out that every block in the country gets a number. We do that every year after decennial census. So coming up next year, we will be releasing data with new block numbers and probably some changes in census tract numbers. But the blocks, anyway, over here on the right, they fit into block groups, and then the block groups into the tract into the county into state, and the state within the United States, okay? So one thing, a little caveat here is that for New England and even New Jersey, the tracts tend to actually nest also within what we call county subdivisions. So that's a town in New England or a city. Okay, so it's kind of pretty tidy. But if you were to go to the rest of the country, so for example, Florida or maybe Texas, where cities are expanding all the time, like every year they're adding more onto the city, and they're having new cities develop and things like that, you would find that the tracts do not nest within those cities, that it doesn't coincide. The tracts will coincide with the county, but not with cities and things of that sort. And part of the reason is the northeast of the country is an older part of the country. These boundaries for towns and townships and things have been there the last 100 years, more or less. And so when this program was put into play, the tract program, 1940, 1950, those municipalities were very stable, and we just aligned the tracts to those boundaries. So something to keep in mind when you're looking for data. Let me just go through here. I also like to put up this geography hierarchy when you're looking for data in our website, our portal. The geography branch believes that certain things nest within certain things, okay? So if you're looking for a zip code, and we do have data by zip code tabulation area, we call it. We have towns or zip code, not really towns, but zip codes around the country that span state lines. And so because of that, the zip code tabulation data set nests within the country. It does not even nest within a state, it nests within the nation. So if you go looking for zip code information, you're going to have to know the zip code you want, and you go to the nation right here, and then you say zip code, and then it asks you what zip code do you want. You look for it. A different way would be down here, county subdivision. Something different to think about. County subdivision is what we call a town in New England. So a town nests within a county. So when you go looking for data, you're actually going to say, okay, I want a town or county subdivision, and you notice within the nation, then you're going to have to trigger the portal and say, okay, I need the state, and you find your state, then you find the county within the state, and then you find your county subdivision. So it kind of works like that. Whatever you're looking for, you're sort of going to start working through the system like this and looking for it. So something just to keep in mind. I think if you refer back to this video or this slide, it helps you sometimes figure out how will you find something in our massive database. I don't know if we have GIS people on here, but I do like to point out, if you're using this thing called a FIPS code and you're downloading data and you need to match up data to geographic areas to data, and you're doing that in a GIS, if you get these long codes, the first 2 digits are the state code. Every state has a 2-digit code, and including like Puerto Rico and District of Columbia, and I think Guam, it also has a 2-digit code. So that's there. The next thing is you get these follow-up codes that are county codes, right? And so right here you have 013, that's a county in New Jersey. Down here you have 013, and then the next thing is right across. If you're looking for a tract, the tract is within the county and the state, and you get this. This is tract number 1, actually, and I think of it like dollars and cents. So there's a 0.00 here, but this is tract number 1. Just something for you to keep in mind. If you're looking for the county subdivision or the town, we call that a minor civil division in New England. So you're going to get a 5-digit code over here. And if you're looking for a place, and that would be a city in New England, you're going to get something like this. A city, remember, nests just within the state. So there's no test on this. You don't have to remember it, but it's just here in the slide. So if you need to refer back to something. Anatomy of a table, I like to say we release the data in tables. And so these tables, for example, start with a letter code. A B means base, DP, data profile, S is a subject. So just so you're kind of aware what that means, the next 2 digits are actually an identifier, kind of breaking it down for you. And I don't really have that on here, but just so you know, that's how it is. And then the next 3 digits, and the A is a suffix, meaning it deals with a race, okay? So that's another thing to keep in mind, just so you have an idea of what you're looking at, all right? When I go into the portal today, I am intuitively, you would want to just like, say I'm looking for, and you want to put in, I'm looking for, I don't know, income in Boston, Massachusetts, and you could do that. But you don't have a lot of control over what the mechanism is going to bring back to you or dish up to you. So I like to say, go for advanced search. It's down here. It's very unnoticeable. But I tend to say, start with advanced search, okay? And once you click on advanced search, it gives you these breakouts here, and you can start filtering out what you need. Even if you filter out just ever so slightly something, I think you're going to get a better product if you go to advanced search. So I'm going to go into the portal, but this is my contact information if you need it. And then also I like to point out, this is our Ask Data email down here. In case you think you have something really specialized, or you think I went on vacation, you might want to send the question to them, okay? Or the best thing to do is really send it to both of us at one time. So All right, let me do this. I will stop my screen share, right? And let me open it. And yeah, here we go. And I will come back and share screen. Okay, you can see my screen okay? Somebody let me know. Does it say explore census data up there?
Yes, we can see it.
You can see it. Okay, good.
Good.
Okay. And okay, so I had another meeting today and it was Microsoft Teams. And in Microsoft Teams, you can't see the URL. Can you see the URL up here?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, so this is how you would get here. It's data.census.gov, right? That's all you have to type in and it will bring you to this page, all right? If you ever need to get back to the beginning and you click on the logo, it will just bring you right back to this page, no change, all right? And here you can type something in right here if you wanted to, but for purposes of today, I will go right to advanced search. And I'm going to show you we have topics over here, but I really advise you to select your year. Okay, I would say that's the first thing you want to do. If I don't know why 2022 is in there, it's just to make sure we are all awake and paying attention. But really, if you want 1 year data, remember I said we had September and December. So if you want 1 year data, you can go to 2019. But if you want the 5 year data, it won't be released for 2019 until December. So that means you have to go back to 2018. So I will click on 2018, right? And look down here to the left. Selected filters are right here. And you can see that that's my first filter down there, okay? I can come here to geographies and I can select whatever I want to select. I could select tract, or I could select county subdivision or zip code or counties. So I will actually take tract. And once I do that, I have to let it know what state. And let me see if we can find, we are in, oops, sorry, I went too far. Massachusetts, right? And then I can pick any county that I want to. And so I think I will pick north of Boston. I think it's Middlesex County. And we can say all census tracts within Middlesex County, Massachusetts. So I click on that and make sure that you get something down here at the bottom, right here. Okay, you get a little chip down there and it says what you've selected, right? And then we can either go to topics if we want to and look up a topic, or we can come here and go to surveys. If we go to surveys, it is going to sort of, it blanks out what is no longer reachable for us. So it knows that many of these things we can no longer find because we are asking for tract level data. So it knows it can only supply us with 5 year data. And that's what it highlights here, right? So we have ACS 5 year estimates data. I click on that, it puts a little chip down here. And so now I can go over here to the lower right where it says search. And here we have 4 tables, okay? And so I'm going to just select one of the tables and click on it. And oops, let's see what happened here. Something went wrong. Oh. It didn't like something there. I don't know what that was. Let's see if we get this. Okay. So here we have all the tracts in Middlesex County. And I like to say at this point, you are window shopping. So you have not really decided that this is what you want, but you're kind of looking at it, and you could come over here and there are 4 other tables you could look at. You could click on one and it should load. Sometimes it is Friday night, so sometimes we are doing some fixes to the system. Let's see what happens here. And it is a lot of data. Okay, so here we have some other kinds of data, but I like to say this is the point where you're kind of looking, but you're not really sure that that's what you want. And you sort of go through and you say, okay, is this what I really want, and let's say it is what we want, then you can come over here to the right, upper right, and you click on Customize Table, and then your table comes up for you, okay? And it is every tract in that county, and as you scroll to the right, you see that there's a lot of data here, okay? And so now what you can do is actually, if this is what you want, you can, first of all, you can control this screen a little bit if you need to make things bigger. I'm not really sure why you would want to do that, but if you don't want to see the margin of error, you can turn it off. Okay, and we got rid of that. You can download it right here if you want to do that. If you download it, it just gives you everything. It's not, it will give you the margins of error as well. Okay, but you can do that if you want to do that. Up here at the top, you have your URL. You can click on the URL and you can right click, copy it, and you can paste it into something. And when you click on it again, maybe tomorrow or a week from now, it will open this table for you. If there's only maybe one or two things you want here, you can actually highlight it right here. You can copy it and you can paste it into an Excel spreadsheet. If that's all you want, something quick, you can do that as well. You also have your over here on the very right. I don't know if you can see this. It says columns and cell column. You can kind of turn things off and on if you want to. There's certain things that you want, or one tract you don't want. You can turn it off right there before you download it. And I believe, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I know Cedric worked with this before, but I believe it will get rid of it for you and it will not download it. If you need to close this instrument panel on the right, you just click back on columns again and it's gone. Okay, and so you can certainly do that if you want to do that. So that is how you get the data initially. And I'm going to show you again, just for good practice, okay? So if I need to blank everything out, I'm going to come up here to the upper left and click on the logo. And we're back to square one. It has erased everything, and we can start all over again if we want to. So we come back. I'm just going to show you how to do it again. Advanced search. I always like to say get your year first. But let's do something a little bit different. We will take 2019 data, right? And then we can come here to geography. And usually what it tries to do is anything that's available. So look at this, I had tract. I'm clicking on tract, but it knows there is no 1 year data available for the census tract. So it gives me nothing up here, okay? But if I go, for example, to state data or county data, it populates it because it knows it's possible to get information that many counties are over 65,000 people. So we will come down here and we will say, okay, let's take the counties in Massachusetts, all counties. And let's take one more. We'll go to Rhode Island. And I say all the counties in Rhode Island. So I put two states together, right? And before I showed you how to take information using the survey thing, but right here it says topics. And so that's another way. And you could come through here and you could look at sort of the things that we have here and say, well, what is here that I want? So I'll just click on health. Okay, and we have disability, we have health insurance. So let's just look at health insurance. So we click on that. It puts it down there as a filter. So now we have a lot of filters down here, right? So I'm going to the bottom right and I say search. And so suddenly I have all these tables that are available to me. Look at this over here on the right. So you can kind of look through here and see, and it sort of grouped things up at the top, the 2019. I think what's happened, it's given you a lot more than we really wanted. But let's just take something here, okay? Let's see if we can find, I think health insurance. We'll just click on that and see what we get. So we get this information. It's letting us know there are 70 results right here. Notice as we go down, it's all 2019. If we look over here on the left, it gives you the year. It gives you the tables as we go through. So we have all this sort of information here. And we can look at this. I always like to say we are still window shopping. So if over here on the left, we went through and we saw something that was maybe more interesting to us, we could do that. If you get down here to the bottom, don't think that that's the end of things. You can click on load more, and it brings up more tables for you. Okay, and you can sort of look through those and figure out. Notice that a lot of these tables have that suffix on the end, and so that means it's dealing with only one race. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. But we're looking at this table. We're looking at civilian population coverage alone. So do they have Medicare, VA insurance, that sort of thing, public health alone insurance, and then this sort of down here. But I'm actually going to take, yeah, well, I'll stick with this table, I guess. And then you can customize the table, and you can come through here and you can sort of look at it a little bit more, see if it's something you really want. You can download it if you want to do that. You can, not memorize, copy and paste if you want to do that. The other thing you can do is you can map it. Okay, so you can come over here to the right. I don't say this is the best mechanism, but I do, before we do that, I like to say, what do we want to look at? And notice that we have hard numbers here and not percentages. Oh, actually, we do have percentages, don't we, over here on the right, percent public coverage. So maybe we're going to look for that. Yeah, we might look for the civilian, non-institutionalized. That means nobody in a prison, nobody in hospital. And we're looking for the percentage estimate that are percent public coverage. Okay, so let's just click on a map and it will map it for you. And let me just do something here. Okay. Sorry, I had to step away from the computer there. Okay, so it has mapped the two states for us. It has taken the first variable there. So here it is up here at the top, the line. And if we click on this right here, it's showing us all the variables in that table. And so you can actually scroll through, and you all help. Somebody shout if you see it before me, but we're looking for civilian non-institutionalized. We don't want the estimate, we want the percentage. And I'm going to tell you, this is not the most convenient way of doing this, but this is what the Census Bureau has set up. Let's see if we have this estimate. If I can even find it. Maybe not. You can usually keep going. Yeah, I actually don't see it, but you can change what you're looking for. Oh, here we have percent. Okay. I'm just changing something so you see. It will change what you're looking for. You have to pay attention to that. And then over here on the left, there's a little gear. If you want that, you want to practice your cartography skills, you can actually come over here and you can, say, I want to change the color of the map. Let me just go down a little bit more. You could do things like that if you want 5 classes or 6 classes. If you don't want natural breaks, you can say, maybe I want the quantiles, or that's cartographic method, but that is there if you want to look that up and fool around with it. You can also sort of see what you're looking at. So you can come here to select. You can click on it, and there's a county. It's telling you Essex County, Massachusetts, and it gives you a number here. Okay, public health insurance alone. Okay, so it lets you know what the number is. If you want to click around and look at things, you can do that as well. So that is something you can do with this, and I think it's pretty interesting. And let me go back to square one. Okay, so I went up here and I clicked and I got out of this. So I'm starting all over again. But I wanted to just show you something. So we looked at health insurance. We could certainly just say, let's look at health insurance. We click on that. Let's look at the year. And I'm just going to select one thing here, 2019. And then I'm going to come here to my geography, and let's just select Boston, okay? So we're going to come here and we need to tell it that we're looking for place. And here it is down here, place. And places nest within the count within the state rather. So we're going to come here, find Massachusetts. And it could be all places in Massachusetts, or we look for Boston here. Let's see if we find it. There it is right there. And then I'm just going to come down to the right and say search. And now it's giving me all these options for Boston, just public health insurance. I'll click on this one. And so this is a little bit more simplified, easier to look at because it's only one entity, right? You can't map it, by the way. If it's one entity, you can only get the table. But here's a way that you could go through and you could say, okay, this is just Boston. And I'm looking at this and trying to figure out who has public coverage, has private coverage or whatever. And you could do this. By the way, if you're ever in deep into this, you know, it's Boston you want, you know, it's 2019, but you don't want this topic, you change your mind, go back to the filter right here and say, I don't want health insurance. Okay, I need to look up something else. And I got rid of that and I come to topics. And then I may want to sort of fool around in here and see what else is available. Or, by the way, you can come to the top and you can put in a word. Do not hit return, just wait. It just comes up on its own. And so here we have information about telephone, computer, and internet access. So I say, okay, yeah, I want to look at that. All right, and so it did that. I come up to the upper right. There's a little chevron here. I say done. And it has changed my table. Okay, so once again, what I did is I went back to filter, right here. And I got rid of what was here. And then I said, okay, let me search for something. And I came down here below the filters and I put in a word or whatever I want and I searched for it. Okay. And it found, you know, it was a subset of another table and it found it for me. So that is something that you can do with this. Okay. All right. So I'm going to, I hope you can still go out of this for a minute. And I'm going to show you another website. Okay. So I'm going to come up here. We are in Google Chrome. So I'm going to search. I'm going to say census.gov and I'm going to say ACS. And you can still see this, correct?
Correct. Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. Okay. And this is the ACS website. They're piece of our real estate. Okay. And when you come here, it tells you everything you want to know about ACS, right? And I even like to say, if you come down here to methodology, you can come here, and if you're interested, you can look at all the questionnaires, right? You can click on that, and it will go back through time, and you can look to see what the questionnaire used to look like, okay? Or what the questions are. I am going to tell you, it takes almost an act of God to get a question put on this form. So don't think you're going to suggest anything. It needs to be another government agency that suggests what goes on the form. But we almost never change the questions. We just, maybe a little bit, but I'm going back. So here's that entrance page again for ACS. There's a good video up here if you ever want to watch that. But I want to show you the data. So if you come to data right here and click on that on the ACS page, right, we have sort of 3 different ways we can get data. So one of them is that data profile. Remember, that's sort of what we were looking at, or what I had mentioned in any case. And you can get it by county or state or place or nation. Okay, so if you come here, this is another way to find data or place. And you can come right here and you can say what state, and you could say Massachusetts, and then you could say, here it is, Boston, and you can say get data profile links. And when you click on that, you have to say which one you want. And it's supposed to open it for you in data.census.gov. If for some reason you have trouble, make sure you look at the product line up here, and that it is filled with something, that it says 5 year or 1 year or something like that, okay? But here it is, there is some information here for Boston. It's over here on the right. Yeah, here it is. Let me go back though, if I can. Actually, you can see this, right? The table?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, good. I'm going to go back. You can still see this now, the ACS website. That Google, I was in Microsoft Teams, and it didn't like this. It wouldn't let me go from, I had to keep readjusting it. So anyway, I'm going back here to the ACS page, and I'm doing something different. I go to subject tables. And here are many, I'm going to say all, and these are like all the really specialized tables if you want to look through them and see what we really have, okay? So you can do this, it's kind of easy to do that. Look at this, food stamps, SNAP, and that's table S2201. If you click on it, it will open in this data.census.gov. So this is what happens. You have to come over here and say, okay, but what type of data do I want? Do I want 1 year, 2019, or do I want something different? So I'll just say I want 2018 5-year data. It opens the table for the whole United States for me. So this is what the table looks like. But you can now go to filter, and you can filter it down by your geography. Okay, so this is just another way to do this if you need to. Okay. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. Go back here. Let me go back. If it won't go back, yeah. The last thing I want to show you, I will just go back one more. Okay, so we were looking at data profiles. Right here is narrative profiles. So if you are writing something up, you can come here, you select your year, right? And you say nation, state, county, whatever you want. So we could say place like that, right? If you know your census tract, you can put that in there as well. So we'll come down here, we'll say Massachusetts, and it asks for a place, and I'm going to put in Worcester. I used to live there. And then we come down here and we say get narrative profile. And it takes about 30 seconds to churn here. And then what it will give you is it gives you something that's very written out for you. And a lot of people who do grant writing, or they just need to read something out, they prefer this, okay? Now you have less control over this. You don't really get to choose everything that you want, but it has a lot of information in there, and it has these little graphs as well if you want those. I want to say that when I look in Wikipedia sometimes and it has information about different towns, I say to myself, I think they're getting it from here. But anyway, you can go through here and you can print this out as well. And it has all sorts of data. It's just sort of put in a different format if you want something like this. But you may find something in here that you did not find anywhere else. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind. So at this point, are there any questions?
I think this is probably a small enough group that if anybody has any questions for David, you can just speak it out. You don't have to put it in the chat. So if anybody has any questions.
I think we are okay, looks like.
Okay, all right. All right, I will show you one other thing. So it's kind of interesting. You probably think American Community Survey, we have all this data and it goes into a table, right? But not everything is always, how can I say it? Data we collect cannot always be displayed in a table. So let me see if I can do this here. Okay, so do you see the page, the census page, and it says something about Hurricane Zeta up here?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay, good. So we have a lot of things here, by the way. You can go to Census Academy and we have little videos, YouTube videos and things that you can get data on. But you can also come here to data tools and apps, and I come here, click on that. And I do like to show people this census flows mapper. And so we do ask people in American Community Survey where they used to live. Okay, so I'm going to launch this. Okay, so this is, in the survey, we ask people, where did you used to live? Okay, and this is a way for us to figure out where people are moving to and from around the country. So we can come here, we can search for a county, and so I think Suffolk County, right, is Boston. So it is only done by counties, right? And it's going to start showing inbound and outbound. But let's look at this. Where are people coming from? So we look at inbound, and I don't say this is the best mapping application, but it is kind of interesting to look at this. And so here we have Suffolk County, and it's sort of showing us where people are coming from around the country. So you do have a lot of, let me go in there a little bit more. You have a lot of university students, right? They're coming from all around the world to go to university there. But you can click on a county, and it kind of gives you the number of people. And I believe it's actually the average of people moving into the county, but you do have that information here. And so many people are just coming from the adjoining county and they're moving in. But let's look at this from all over the country. This is where people are coming from to live there. And you could click on different counties. Here's, I think that's Las Vegas, 132 people on average coming each year to Boston for whatever reason. But, where are people from Boston moving to? So I change this over here on the left, the outbound. And so this sort of gives us, this is one thing I'm trying to work on to get them to put more color over here, like a few more breaks. I think we have natural breaks. Yeah. But this is sort of showing you where they're moving to and from. Okay. But, keeping in mind that you have a lot of universities here. So students are moving away or they're coming in. But let me look at a different county so we might get a different point of view. So let's look here. We have, I think that would be Orange County, Florida. Let's look at that. That's Orlando. And let's look to see where people are coming from to live in Orange County, Florida. Okay, so we'll come down here. So a lot of people around that county are moving in, but then we have all these people, Southeast Florida, around Florida, they're moving there. But all these places around the country, they're moving there. And so you can actually zoom in if you wanted to. And I live in this county right here. I'll just click on it. So on average, around almost 400 people a year are moving to Orange County. This is Manhattan right here. Let's see if there's 134. So people in Manhattan think Manhattan's great. They're not going to leave. But that is something you can do with this. You can see where people are moving to, where they're moving from, if you want to do that. And that's based on the ACS data. And yeah. Oh, actually, outbound. I want to see. Just see if anybody's moving out of Orange County, where they're moving to. Oh, all around the country. They're probably students who have gone there and they're moving back. Who knows? But moving all around Florida. So it's just something you can look at if you want to fool around with it a little bit. That is based on the ACS. And I think there is a way you can download the table if you want to. right there. So you can actually download that table yourself if you export it to CSV, and then you can actually, you know, bring in your own conclusions if you want to. By the way, here are those FIPS codes over on the left that I gave you I mentioned before that you might need, but they are there. So that's just something else you can use. Let me, one other thing. Okay, you can still see my screen, right? It says Hurricane Zeta right here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we can
Okay,
see.
yeah. Okay, so just so we know, you can come here, explore data, okay, and Census Academy. You can come here, and if you want to attend webinars, you say upcoming webinars, and they are listed here. You cannot register for them. You have to just tap in on the time, like 5 or 10 minutes before, and get in. But these are upcoming webinars that we have. And then we also have data gems over here. So you can click on data gems. And down here, these are little snippet videos, or usually like 3 or 4 minutes long. And they explain to you how to do different things, okay? So if you wanted to go into data.census.gov, you wanted to learn about something or whatever, you can look through these. This is me. If you want to get a geographic concept in your mind, you can look at these, and they go into YouTube, and you can learn about that. So that is something else that happens. We're working right here on courses. We're trying to put together a couple of courses that would help people understand different aspects. So they are here if you wanted to look at those. I'm going to tell you these things were done before the Zoom era. So Zoom era, we'll say, and maybe a year or two ago, and people, some of these presentations are very dry. Okay, they are not pulling you into them. You know, the people don't always know how to do that, but you know, just bear with it. So anyway, that's something you can look at if you want to. And I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen so I can see people. And I don't know, any last questions?
Anybody have any questions for David? If not.
And it's okay if there are no questions.
Well, I guess.
David, we wanted to thank you so much for this really informative workshop. And I think all of us have kind of at least decoded a little bit of what there is behind the firewall, you know. And yeah. I cannot tell you more and more, this is becoming so applicable and important to our work. And actually, it was Dr. Sungu who suggested it. I believe she was the one who connected with you about this. But she uses this kind of data in her GIS and other kinds of work. And yep. I think the students do as well. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And please, if you find anything new or want to be in touch, Andrea is always there, and we'll certainly follow up with you. So thank you.
Okay, good, great. So you'll get the recording, and that will help you a little bit. I just urge you to play around with the website, and you'll get the hang of it. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, David. So much.
Okay. Great to be in here.
Thanks. All right, go enjoy your weekend.
You too.
All right, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.